We are live from London, and it's time to count down to 2020. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
1. The scale of Australia's bushfire disaster is beginning to emerge. A mass exodus from southern New South Wales is underway, with long lines of cars clogging highways leading right back to Sydney and Canberra. Fire officials have told holidaymakers to urgently leave a long stretch of coastline before more ferocious fires are expected to sweep in over the weekend.
As the world fell, each of us in our own way was broken. It was hard to know who was more crazy. Me or everyone else.
Why? After many months of reflection and internal discussions, the couple said, "We have chosen to make a transition this year in starting to carve out a progressive new role within this institution. We intend to," and here is the key bit, "step back as senior members of the royal family."
Here's where the gets real.
The resolution is adopted, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The articles of impeachment against Donald Trump will now move from the House of Representatives to the Senate.
1868, 1999, and now 2020. For only the third time in American history, the Sergeant-at-Arms tells senators on pain of imprisonment that they must maintain silence and decorum in the trial of a sitting president, the 45th, Donald J. Trump.
The Chinese president, Xi Jinping, says his country is waging a serious fight against the demon coronavirus outbreak. Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world, including Germany and Japan. President Xi, in a meeting with the head of the World Health Organization, pledged transparency in his government's efforts to contain the disease. He said the epidemic is a demon and we cannot let this demon hide.
4, 3, 2, 1.
We are leaving the European Union. For many people, this is an astonishing moment of hope, a moment they thought would never come. And there are many, of course, who feel a sense of anxiety and loss. And then there's a third group, perhaps the biggest, who had started to worry that the whole political wrangle would never come to an end.
Whether we like it or not, we're being dragged out of the European Union against our will. Brexit, and no form of Brexit, has any support on the island of Ireland.
We're being dragged out of the European Union without our consent. We, and I specifically, voted to remain, and it just doesn't matter, and nobody's listening. So that's why we're here protesting again tonight.
How proud are we to be European? Thank you very much.
I think it's very sad, but I accept it. But I shall fight. I shall fight. Is this going to be the trade deal of a century, or actually more likely is it going to be a divergent deal that doesn't reflect our values? I think that's where the battles now lie, and above all we have to avoid no deal.
It's very sad. I think what it really does though is it shows that there isn't really a future of Britain in Europe in the way that we've enjoyed over the last 30 or 40 years, but there is a future for Scotland in Europe, and that's what we're looking forward to.
Let us celebrate tonight as we've never done before, the greatest moment in the modern history of our great nation. Thank you.
I need it to be summer now. This has literally been the worst winter ever.
Ugh, I can't even.
It's literally not possible.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. You are looking at a time-lapse of the incredible effort to build a hospital in just 10 days. Can you imagine that? The 600,000 square foot facility started treating patients today in Wuhan, China, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. A crew of 7,000 people built the hospital, which has 1,000 beds. A second hospital with 500 more beds is due to open later this week.
Philip Schofield, the presenter who usually helps guests share part of their lives with viewers, instead today shared a part of his, revealing that he is gay.
Storm Dennis brought a month's worth of rain in just 48 hours, and a record number of flood warnings were in place right across England. People in riverside communities were helpless as their homes and livelihoods were destroyed.
Another 97 people in China have been killed by the coronavirus. We know that over 44,000 people have been infected in China, and the death toll has passed 1,100.
It's a cookbook! It's a cookbook!
One of the things we know that China was very worried about was, revealing these cases and the effect it might have on its economy. It's gone ahead and it's cooperating, as far as we hear in Geneva, in an extremely transparent way with the World Health Organization. Still a huge hit to its economy. Mm-hmm. And again, this is something countries have to face, and it's a very, very difficult balancing act.
Open your mouth! They're paying for it, you eat it! Ready? Exercise! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, love, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, I love Marine Corps.
Well, the largest coronavirus outbreak outside mainland China is not in a country as such. It's on a cruise ship that's docked close to Yokohama in Japan. Here it is. It's called the Diamond Princess. 175 people on board have the virus. That includes a health official who boarded to hand out questionnaires and then became infected. And in total, there are over 3,500 passengers and crew on this ship. None of them are being allowed to get off.
Gentlemen, it has been a privilege playing with you tonight. Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus.
The coronavirus.
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 We will need even greater stores of resilience, patience, humility, and generosity in the months ahead.
That's all we've got left, and there's 3 of us needing it.
That is why people will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes. Shopping for basic necessities.
For days, shoppers have been urged not to stockpile. But if scenes like these filmed this morning are anything to go by, the message isn't getting through.
One form of exercise a day, for example, a run, walk or cycle.
Do a lap, please, everyone, please do a lap. Do a lap, do a lap. Yep, all right, lunch, that's perfect. We're exercising, sir.
And travelling to and from work, but only where this is absolutely necessary and cannot be done from home.
London Underground trains were packed today despite coronavirus warnings to avoid public transport and work from home.
The people of this country will rise to that challenge.
Goodness me!
And we will come through it stronger than ever.
So Trevor straight on job. Comes straight out, Donny swings with the bat, Trevor gives him the right, and the Donny is sleeping properly.
We will beat the coronavirus, and we will beat it together. And therefore, I urge you, at this moment of national emergency, to stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has tested positive for coronavirus and is self-isolating in Downing Street.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yes, he said the opposite. It's funny. Yeah, I get it. Nice day. Oh, now you're funny too. Oh.
I'm speaking to you at what I know is an increasingly challenging time, a time of disruption in the life of our country, a disruption that has brought grief to some, financial difficulties to many, and enormous changes to the daily lives of us all.
It is a devastating milestone no one wanted to reach. In less than 2 months, more than 20,000 people have died with COVID-19.
Stepping back into his job and into the most difficult decisions of his premiership.
I'm sorry I've been away from my desk for much longer than I would have liked.
The Prime Minister's experience shaping his script.
If this virus were a physical assailant, an unexpected and invisible mugger, which I can tell you from personal experience it is, then this is the moment when we have begun together to wrestle it to the floor. And so it follows that this is the moment of opportunity. This is the moment when we can press home our advantage. It is also the moment of maximum risk. Control the virus, go to work. Sit in the sun, stay alert. Control the virus, go to work. Sit in the sun, stay alert. Control the virus, go to work. Sit in the sun, stay alert. We have a route and we have a plan. Work from home if you can. PPE to the people who need it.
Right, stop that. It's silly. Very silly indeed.
Here's how to wear a face covering. First off, wash your hands before putting it on using soap or an alcohol-based sanitizer gel.
Without touching the front, cover your mouth and nose. It should go all the way up to the bridge of your nose and down under your chin.
You're supposed to wear your mask over your nose. Looks like you're wearing a diaper for your chin. Chin diapers don't help.
Recently, emergency services in the UK have had to deal with a spate of attacks on mobile phone masts, motivated by conspiracy theories linking coronavirus to 5G.
There was a sense of normality today, but one which could come with serious repercussions. A week on from the relaxed lockdown measures, the hot weather, cool drinks and ice creams in Brighton were just too tempting.
Days like today, especially with the weather we're having, I feel like just make the most of it, just come outside, enjoy yourself, but obviously just respect the government's advice and just keep the 2 metre distance.
The weather's gorgeous and a lot of places are open then.
Bit of normality.
Get a beer.
Sitting on the beach, away from everyone, I cannot see any difference in me going to the park next to my house.
Dominic Cummings, the Prime Minister's top advisor, today ever so keen on enforcing the rules. But questions mounting over a 260-mile trip to Durham at the height of the lockdown.
My judgment, which is the same as the Prime Minister's judgment, is that what Mr Cummings did was within the guidelines.
That normally most people don't. Oh, no, and I'm going, right. Here's the line and I'm going,
Are you going to consider your position, Mr Cummings?
Obviously not.
You stupid boy.
You're not going to consider resigning? The public are probably very angry.
Don't think
seem
so.
to have interpreted the
You guys,
rules
are
yourself.
you guys are probably about as right about that as you are about Brexit. Do you remember how right you were all were about that?
Dominic Cummings, the master of understanding and being on the right side of public opinion. But what will they all make of this?
Today, the Italian mafia are suspected of taking advantage of the coronavirus crisis. This organisation helps business owners that have been approached by the mobs throughout Italy.
My father made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
We start tonight with the Chancellor's sombre warning about the prospects for the UK economy in the wake of the pandemic. Rishi Sunak says it's not obvious there will be an immediate bounce back once lockdown restrictions are eased more fully, and it could take some time for the economy, he says, to get back to normal.
We've got to have money.
The Office for National Statistics says 2.1 million people claimed benefits last month. That's up by more than 856,000, and it's a rise of almost 70%, and the clearest sign yet of the continuing economic cost of the pandemic.
Well, what's that then? I've heard worse. You liar! Come on, you pansy!
And it means that the official total across the UK now stands at 35,341.
Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. Will you join in a crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me? Beyond the barricade, is there a world you long to see?
Then join in the fight that will give you the right to be free. Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes.
This statue of a 17th century slave trade owner, Edward Colston, in Bristol, stands no more. Protesters then dragged it through the street to the harbour.
If you thought 3 months off might have quashed our love of shopping, just look at these queues.
But the UK still has the highest coronavirus death toll in the world after the US and Brazil.
The other hotspots of concern might be in Barnsley and Bradford. And so how can we make sure that they're getting the right data now so we don't have this problem again?
What's your daughter called?
She's called Scarlett.
Scarlett, I think it looks better on the lower shelf. And it's a lovely unicorn.
This pub in Cumbria in the north of England has probably never been as clean.
Can't take away the smell, though. Sure they tried.
It's been a long wait, but in England, indoor gyms have finally reopened. And with new rules on how to exercise safely, there's been a lot for leisure centre operators to work out.
There are signs of a second wave of the pandemic in parts of Europe, according to Boris Johnson, who's been defending his government's handling of the crisis and the sudden imposition of quarantine on travellers to the UK from every part of Spain. Now, the Spanish Prime Minister is among those criticising the decision. He said tourists in most regions of Spain are safer from coronavirus than they are in the UK.
Duck season. Rabbit season. Duck season.
Boris Johnson has urged the public to enjoy summer safely as the coronavirus lockdown is eased for England's hospitality sector.
The pops are off the meat.
There's a wonder product the world can't live without.
The healing powers of honey have long been proclaimed.
The healthy, grown-up, busy bee.
For generations, it's been used as a home remedy for the common cold.
I've been using Manuka honey for years.
Even celebrities have waxed lyrical about its health benefits. But now scientists from the University of Oxford have confirmed honey is better than over-the-counter medicines for treating coughs and colds.
It's a meal deal like never before.
It's so simple.
Head back up.
A quick swab in the nose. Place the stick into a small box. Put it into a high-tech DNA testing machine. And within an hour and a half, you'll know whether a patient has coronavirus or not.
Those arriving in Calais tonight were cutting it fine. As the clock ticked down, this couple were trying to thumb a lift to avoid quarantine.
Maybe Mother Nature knew. With so many foreign holidays scuppered, she brought the sunshine to us.
And there you can see the enormity of what appears to be a secondary explosion. Whether that was, it could well be the first explosion, because it may have been a fire just before it, but I'm just getting reports actually that there was a fire first and then that enormous explosion. Just show viewers, and this is the explosion from a different angle, and again it just shows how whether that's the first explosion or the second explosion is not clear, but that is what the authorities or state media says is a fireworks warehouse.
The Health Secretary has announced tough new restrictions for millions of people living in parts of northern England amid a rise in cases of coronavirus. Matt Hancock says that from midnight tonight, people living in Greater Manchester and parts of East Lancashire and West Yorkshire will be banned from going to other people's houses. They cannot meet inside or in private gardens.
This volunteer in Moscow is just one of only 100 people we understand to have been given Russia's COVID-19 vaccine. Which is why experts were alarmed when Vladimir Putin told this news conference today Russia was the first country in the world to approve the vaccine for use.
The families of those whose lives were so cruelly taken, families who spent the last 2 days describing their own life sentences, arrived at the Old Bailey to finally see justice handed out. With 22 innocent victims, many of them children, this had been Britain's biggest ever murder trial. It ended with record jail sentences. Hashim Abedi, who along with his suicide bomber brother planned the Manchester Arena attack, couldn't be given a whole life term because of his age. Instead, he will spend a minimum 55 years in prison.
The pints are still being pulled, but in Wigan, this bar is already grappling with the latest local restrictions on who can meet for a drink. So even the tentative suggestion they could have to close again in a trade-off with schools fills the owner with dread.
When terrorists raced to destroy the seat of our democracy, the 40 of Flight 93 did the most American of things. They took a vote, and then they acted. Together they charged the cockpit. They confronted the pure evil, and in their last act on this earth, they saved our capital. In this Pennsylvania field, the 40 intrepid souls of Flight 93 died as true heroes.
Now, schools in England are preparing to welcome back pupils after nearly 6 months out of the classroom. The Education Secretary, Gavin Williamson, insisted that students were returning to a safe environment.
Do you feel safe? Well, do you?
The stage is ready. The candidates have just arrived here in Cleveland, and America will be watching tonight.
Officials in charge of the coronavirus testing network have apologised after increasing evidence that the system is struggling to meet demand, with some people being asked to travel hundreds of miles to get tested.
We're sorry.
The number of emergency vehicles says everything about just how serious this incident was. We now know that in the early hours of this morning, Police and ambulance crews were dealing with 8 stabbings in Birmingham city centre.
To Washington now, President Trump saying he's going to nominate a new Supreme Court justice by the end of the week. The Democrats are saying they'll do just about anything they can to stop that person taking a seat on the court. And this political battle, a bitter political battle, has begun in the last few days after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg on Friday.
The Prime Minister announcing new restrictions on other gatherings.
Over time, the rules have become quite complicated and confusing. So, in England, from Monday, we're introducing the rule of 6. You must not meet socially in groups of more than 6, and if you do, you will be breaking the law. I'm sorry.
We're sorry.
We welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
This is the same man.
It's
who
all
told
set
you-
up. Did you use the word smart? You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same
That was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
and you
him.
know that.
40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, "It is what it is." Or it is what it is because you are who you are. I'm not going to answer the question
Why would
because,
you answer that
because
question?
the question
You want to put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Would you
Who
shut
is your-
up, man?
listen.
Donald Trump has said he and his wife Melania have coronavirus and have begun a period of quarantine. They were both tested after one of Mr. Trump's most senior advisors, Hope Hicks, found out that she had the virus.
The fresh graffiti in Manchester today read, "The North is not a petri dish." But right now, it is under the microscope. The debate over lockdown turning into a showdown.
Today we communicated our clear and unanimous view to the government. It is wrong to place some of the poorest parts of England in a punishing lockdown without proper support for the people and businesses affected.
Are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons, sir.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
Yes, they are. I only wish I could say they were not.
Now, President Trump has returned to the campaign trail, speaking at a large rally in the key electoral state of Florida less than 2 weeks after he tested positive for coronavirus. The president told his supporters that he was now immune and that he felt powerful.
The former New York mayor turned presidential advisor is under fire for his role in the new Borat sequel. Now, the scene isn't questioned. It was recorded in a New York hotel room back in July. Now, Giuliani has apparently, was seen flirting with an actress, pretending to be a television journalist. And after the interview, the two go back to a hotel room. Rudy then reportedly asks for her contact information before lying back on the bed with his hand down his pants.
Naughty, naughty.
England is to face a new month-long lockdown across the nation, starting on Thursday and lasting until the 2nd of December. Despite having repeatedly rejected calls for a nationwide lockdown in favour of localised tiered measures, Boris Johnson today declared at a Downing Street news conference that a responsible Prime Minister could not ignore the rising numbers of coronavirus infections.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Four, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And resilience rises. Not even gravity contains humanity when we explore as one for all.
Sainsbury announces it's shedding 3,500 jobs and closing 420 standalone Argos stores after revealing a £137 million loss. And that's just day one.
Good evening. This most unusual and important race for the White House at the finish line. Votes being counted, polls starting to close, and our special coverage starts right now.
Get ready, everybody. He's about to do something stupid.
It's also clear that we have won Georgia.
He says he's going to go to the Supreme Court and get them to stop the counting of the votes.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he's talking about.
This is a fraud, on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country.
I ask everyone to stay calm. All the people to stay calm.
Calm down now. Get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
The process is working. The count is being completed.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
Joe Biden has won the American presidential election.
For Boris Johnson has yet to meet the president-elect, and the two men have their differences. Mr. Biden's described the PM as a physical and emotional clone of Donald Trump. And as for Brexit...
Had I been a member of Parliament, had I been a British citizen, I would have voted against leaving.
Today, the Bank of England warned that as the second wave breaks, the recovery will have to wait.
The Chief Scientific Advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance, and the Chief Medical Officer for England, Professor Chris Whitty, have both been challenged by MPs about the evidence behind the latest lockdown in England.
To try and soften the blow, the Bank of England will now create another £150 billion at the stroke of a keyboard.
$1 billion here, $1 billion there. We dole it out like candy to children.
Pfizer and German biotech firm BioNTech, which invented the vaccine, have promised 50 million doses by the end of the year, with more than 1 billion to follow in 2021. Our government has ordered 40 million doses, but today called for patience until the vaccine is approved and delivered.
The UK has become the first country in Europe and the 5th in the world to record more than 50,000 deaths because of coronavirus. The Prime Minister said every death was a tragedy, and he warned that Britain was not out of the woods yet. Today, another 595 deaths have been reported, all people who have died within 28 days of a positive COVID-19 test. The death toll now stands at 50,365.
In Tunbridge, there are few coronavirus cases, but high numbers in a couple of areas of Kent have pushed the whole county into the toughest restrictions.
And it's like when you're at school and you behave the whole lesson, and then there's just one kid at the back that hasn't behaved.
The list of retail failures is a long one, but Arcadia is the biggest for years. There are 444 stores and hundreds more concessions within other stores. There are 13,000 workers whose jobs are at risk and an estimated £350 million hole in the pension scheme. Stores are open in Scotland and will open in England on Wednesday as administrators try and sell off Christmas stock and maybe some bits of the business.
Idiots! Get back in there at once and sell!
If good news came in little glass vials, this is it running off the production line.
Shoppers have queued in the dark from 5 a.m. and gyms reopen at midnight as the national lockdown lifted on what's been called Wild Wednesday.
The United Kingdom has become the first country in the world to approve the coronavirus vaccine developed by Pfizer and BioNTech.
Hey man, this don't feel right. My donkey senses are tingling all over, so why don't you just drop that jug of voodoo and let's get out of here.
Through our winter plan, the NHS has been preparing for the biggest programme of mass vaccination in the history of the UK, and that's going to begin next week.
An official from Hubei province has sent CNN internal data, which reveals on certain days, such as February the 10th, 3,911 new cases were reported to the public, but the actual number recorded was almost 6,000.
It's gone ahead and it's cooperating, as far as we hear in Geneva, in an extremely transparent way with the World Health Organization.
I thought my jokes were bad.
Boris Johnson will travel to Brussels tomorrow for a meeting over dinner with the EU Commission President in an attempt to unblock talks on a post-Brexit trade deal. Negotiations remain stuck with just over 3 weeks to go before the transition period ends at the end of December. The politicians hope that meeting in person will lead to a solution.
Yeah, on the list. It'd be simpler and cheaper if they just drove straight into a river.
Just an update for you, because we understand that dinner in Brussels between Boris Johnson and the President of the Commission and other advisers has come to an end. And let's go back to Westminster then and talk to Laura Kuenssberg. Laura, what have you been told?
I know nothing. What? I know nothing. Nothing.
After 10 months of trade negotiations with the EU, the Prime Minister has said this evening that there's a strong possibility of no agreement on a post-Brexit deal. He met the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen last night, but failed to break the deadlock. Both sides admitted that they remained far apart, but agreed that talks would continue until Sunday.
Hey, moron.
Hutch, where you been? I've been looking all over for you.
Why? What's so important?
That.
Thank you.
In Patna, like so many cities across India, the first wave of infection is still reaping an awful toll. Outside the city's hospital, anxious relatives like Pupsa wait for news. Her husband's been admitted. She's waiting to see if he comes out alive.
90-year-old Margaret Keenan, well, she'll go down in history. She's become the first person in the world to receive the Pfizer vaccine against COVID-19 outside trial conditions.
They've done studies, 60% of the time it works every time.
Since the end of September, England, Scotland and Northern Ireland have seen infections peak and fall as they lock down. Wales has been out of its lockdown longer than the others, and now cases are rocketing up. Another lockdown is coming, unless current rules stop the virus spreading.
If those measures do not succeed in turning the tide of the virus, then it is inevitable.
Inevitable.
It's what?
It's inevitable.
One more time?
It is inevitable that we will have to consider a move to alert level 4 immediately after Christmas.
We mustn't panic! We mustn't panic!
We have identified a new variant of coronavirus, which may be associated with the fastest spread in the southeast of England.
Captain, David Dapton.
As expected, London, the capital, will move to Tier 3. I'm told by two MPs who are on that call that will happen from 1 minute past midnight on Wednesday.
No! No, no, no! No! No, 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 no!
Hey, want to see me tempt fate? Could this day get any worse? I did it ironically, so I think I'm safe.
There was an urgency to the Christmas shopping in London today after a new infectious strain of COVID-19 brought about an extraordinary government response, announced by a Prime Minister who's always said he didn't want to spoil Christmas.
It is with a very heavy heart, I must tell you, we cannot continue with Christmas as planned.
Not very happy, and probably won't stick to it. That's about it. Because they can't tell me what to do with my Christmas and my family's Christmas. So we'll take our own risks.
It's here in Porton Down. Government scientists are urgently investigating the threat of the new variant of coronavirus rampant across the southeast of the country.
More and more countries are applying travel bans with the UK after it reported a more infectious and out-of-control variant of coronavirus. Denmark, Italy and the Netherlands have already also detected the new variant. EU ambassadors will meet for emergency talks later to agree a common strategy. France has banned arrivals from the UK by most routes and including some freight.
It's called Operation Stack for a reason. From first light this morning, 33 miles of the M20 was turned into a lorry park. The eastbound carriageway can hold up to 3,000 vehicles. There are 945 and counting.
Well, within the last few minutes, Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has imposed a strict travel ban between Scotland and the rest of the UK.
silliest sketch I've ever been in. Shall we stop it? Yeah, all right.